What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Friday. Weekend all set up. I know everybody's getting ready to find their spot for Saturday at noon. Tomorrow, Virginia Tech. Huge monster game. Obviously, Miami's a big favorite, but the Miami's performance, obviously getting the win, it's critical. These are some of the biggest moments in recent Miami history, really in the last 2 decades, given what is at stake. So to break that down, we're going to be bringing on Lance Roffers, Hurricane Vision himself, the professor, talk about some of the different ways that Miami matched up with Virginia Tech, maybe the ways that Miami is evolving on offense, and other deep X's and O's topics that he's been studying in detail. First, some folks who will study your case in detail as Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
The talk about pivotal moments in Miami Hurricanes history. We had one last night as the Turkish delight, Salih Altuntaz, scored his first career points as a Hurricane. Big moment.
Pete, you were going crazy there on that sideline, or on that wood, I should say, right there, courtside. You came up on the broadcast, bright green shirt, just going nuts.
Pure passion, man. I mean, that's what this program's about, and I'm gonna keep bringing it. I promise you that.
Yeah, I was out there with you, man. We'll talk Canes basketball more in depth after we do the Lance segment. But yeah, I like what I see, man. I like watching this team. I like the way they compete. Not the first half anybody wanted. Elon was shooting the three very well, but these guys are big-time competitors, starting with really their best players in Donaldson and Renew, and then their young guys as well.
Yeah, and I think they're going to wear some of these ACC mid-level to lower-tier teams in the ACC, because there's some bad ACC teams. So I think they're going to have the opportunity to kind of do what we saw last night. Obviously, it was Elon we talked about before the game. This is a team that scored a lot of points this season, 90-plus points per game. So you knew they were going to shoot it. They had a couple kids, number 11, who could really shoot it. Number 7, Cottrell, who averaged 25 points a game, and he could play as well. So they had some guys who could score it, but Miami dialed in without Ernest Uday. So look, that they didn't have him last night. Should be getting him back hopefully pretty soon here. But it was nice to see them adjust without him.
Let's do it, baby. Let's keep this thing rolling. And let's bring in the man himself, the professor, brought to you by Canada Financial, our weekly segment upon further review with the one and only Lance Roffers. Lance, how we doing?
Hey, doing great. How are you guys today? It's Friday.
Yeah, man, never better, man, especially coming off a win. It's nice when you're breaking down victories and not defeats, although you look at the good, bad, and the ugly. So I've had actually a lot of people asking me to ask you this question and this sort of line of questioning, but really what they want to understand is the differences in the offense. You had Shannon Dawson responding to a question that, maybe wasn't phrased perfectly, but he was very testy. He's like, look, these are the same plays we've been running, maybe a couple trick plays here and there, but really it's the same offense we've been running. We're just doing it better. I'm not in the lab cooking up a new offense. What differences do you see? And this can go back as far back as you want when you started noticing the changes. But what are the differences you see in this offense lately that's allowing it to have more success?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, Dawson's telling true, right? They are running, for the most part, the same plays. And a lot of these plays, within any play, you have adjustments that can happen. You have like backside cutbacks, or you have choices. Like, so whenever you hear choice route, right, like that's wide receiver and quarterback are kind of studying what the defense is doing and identifying leverage and kind of playing off of that, right? But the same thing happens with your running backs too, right? They have the ability, especially in zone blocking, right, where it's not specific gaps that they have to hit within that play. They have abilities to cut back, bounce, follow play side, what have you, right? And with some of the running backs that we've had this year, they really have been more prone to follow front side, which is basically the structure of where the play essentially is supposed to go. To me, Pringle has transformed this offense with his vision and his ability to see some of these cutbacks and hit them
Would
quickly.
you call it hurricane vision?
Love it. You know what? I would call it hurricane vision. Actually,
There you go.
now that I think about it. But yeah, Pringle's had the ability to kind of see some of those backside areas and hit them with bursts that maybe some of the other running backs just don't have. Right? It's just physical skill. I think the other thing that Pringle has really shown is he's tougher than a lot of those like bursty scat back types. And it's not a criticism, but maybe that's the big difference between him and Chris Johnson that we saw. Johnson probably had even more speed than Pringle, or at least similar levels, right? But I don't think he saw it quite as quick, and he definitely didn't finish quite as well as Pringle has. And when you're talking about a Mario, right, you gotta be following forward on those plays to get a lot of carries from him. And for me, that's been the single biggest differentiator, is that Pringle has really been able to identify some of those cutbacks, and he's getting into that C gap where maybe Marty Brown and Lyle have been A and B gap only on those runs. They've even kind of ran into their backs of there's blockers a few times. And so that's the difference between having like a -2 run and maybe a 5-yard run. And those plays are what keep you on schedule so often, to be able to, do some of those, I call them intermediate routes, where they're really maybe 10 yards down the field. But if I had to point to something that's really changed a little bit, I think they are attacking that intermediate area a little bit more, which is actually forcing some of those linebackers to take that 1-yard step back that I've harped on so much whenever I've been watching their film. The difference is a yard's 3 feet, but how many times has a guy just gotten a hand on a hip or a brush on a leg as a running back hits a big play, right? And if he's 3 feet closer, that's a tackle now rather than one of those out the gate type runs. And so those are the differences that you're seeing. You're seeing a little bit more of a threat with Pringle in the run game, but they're not calling like drastically different plays, right? It's still inside zone. It's still, choice route. It's still whip. It's still seam routes. It's still that, backside X deep ball to Marion that basically they're hitting on a little bit more. Some of that's the defense too, right? We played some pretty poor defenses over this stretch. So
and one coming up too.
I don't want to get it twisted and feel like, Miami's all of a sudden just become a different team. I do think they've executed a little bit better. We had fewer of those, pre-snap penalties and some of those things that have gotten us off schedule in the past. But I also really am harping on Pringle because I think he transforms this offense, and I just don't want to see them go back, to force feeding Lyle and some of those other players that just haven't performed at the level with Pringle so far.
Let me follow up on that, because this is a hot discussion on CanesInSight.com right now. Literally, as we do this, I was just responding in a thread that was getting very, very good traction, which is about Fletcher's return, right? So sounds like Mark Fletcher's gearing up to return. If not this week, then maybe next week, although I think very possibly this week as well.
I think we'll most likely see him next week. I think like it'll be similar to what we saw with CJ Daniels this last week, where he's out there in warmups. We'll see if he ends up going, but I think very good chance next week.
Yeah, so he's trending towards a return. Again, injuries are weird. I've learned. It was funny. This was directly from Fletcher, was saying he was going to come back during the season when he got hurt. And then you had people in the program saying, no, he's out for the year. And now it's kind of in the middle. So injuries I've learned to be very careful with. So I don't want to overstate or understate, but I think we're trying to get him back, right, at some point here. That will be meaningful. With Pringle,
players are always rosy with injuries, right? Any player is going to tell you, I'm fine, or I'm going to be back, or any of those things. Unless there's a bone sticking out, the player thinks he's getting back sooner, right? And the trainer, he's going to err on conservative. So landing in the middle is pretty typical. Yeah.
Right in the middle. But look, we need him back, right? I think. So but a lot of people are concerned that, hey, you get Fletcher back, now you're going to stunt Pringle's growth. And many people, and I'm one of them, and I know I agree with you, believe that Pringle's jump-started this offense in many ways. How do you integrate a guy like Fletcher, who I think is a championship-level player within his role, to not stop the progress of Pringle while at the same time helping your team win?
Yeah, I think you run a similar like philosophy or plan to what we tried to do with Notre Dame, right? You remember Lyle started that game, right? So the plan was for Lyle to kind of start the game, really get things rolling, and then when you get a lead, it's for Fletcher to kind of be the hammer, right? As the defense is maybe a little worn out, as maybe they've gotten a little tired of chasing this other guy, now they get a hammer coming in. I really believe that Pringle can be your 70% back, right? And Fletcher can be your hammer who really runs with physicality and power. And maybe as you get into the fourth quarter and you have some of those 4-minute drives, I think, Fletcher can be someone that you don't want to step up and tackle. I think as games get cold too, right? Tackling Mark Fletcher, when it's cold outside probably isn't super fun. And for me, I'm excited about it because I believe Fletcher's an upgrade over the other running backs, right? Yeah. So I think he is our second best running back. I think he is our best hammer running back. One thing I've liked about Fletcher is he hasn't been quite as hesitant as I've seen Lyle and Brown be at times on some of those 3rd and 4th and 1s where you don't have time to, sit there and pitter patter. You've got to go. Like you've got to make a decision and then you've got to hit it hard enough that if someone's there, you run them over and get that yard. I think Fletcher's a little bit better at that than, Lyle has been. And Marty Brown I think he's a very good player. I've sang his praises in many of my articles, but I think he's probably just a touch behind Fletcher, and having, Marty Brown there is never a bad thing as well. And the other thing is, Merritt's done a great job of rotating the running backs this year where they've stayed fresh and gotten opportunities. I think at this point, Pringle's kind of earned the job, which is what you want to see from a freshman, right? You want your upperclassmen to kind of get their chance. And then if someone's going to take their spot, you want to see that with performance. I believe Pringle's done that to this point. And at this point, you do have a little bit of a risk of maybe they turn back to a 50-50 or more of a Fletcher rotation, but let's not act as though Mark Fletcher isn't also a very good running back. So.
By the way,
fresh legs for Pringle at this point of the year. So.
Let's shout out. Let's shout out our buddies here at Canada Financial, including Sebastian Canada, lifelong Canes fan, season ticket holder, even though he lives in Atlanta. Lance, why should small business owners be reaching out to Canada Financial to help?
Yeah, he's got more than 2 decades in finance, commercial lending. I may have talked over just a little bit there, but
you're good.
Our buddy, he's got more than 2 decades in finance, commercial lending. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, Sebastian understands, right, how to help businesses stay strong. We've got changing markets right now. Things aren't, always the best right now in the market. And so having an individual who really understands it can protect some of that risk that we all have as small business owners, right? And basically, he can be your outsourced CFO. So where you don't have a designated CFO within your company, he can really fill that role for you. Plus he's a Cane, right? He's a lifelong fan. He's a transplant like many of us, living in Atlanta, but keeps his season ticket, still goes there, to as many games as he can. So you can fill a business role and also, gain a friend who can kind of talk about our Canes together and, really feel something that you don't want to do. Many of us in the finance industry understand that some of the data and the analysis and the bookkeeping that comes with that maybe isn't for everyone. And you can be out growing your business, doing the things that are going to bring in more revenue and margin for your business, and let some of that bookkeeping, budgeting, forecasting stuff happen from Sebastian, his team at CanadaFinancial.com.
That's CNNATA Financial, CANNATA Financial.com, or call and text Sebastian 786-213-3909. He might want to talk about this new running game for the Miami Hurricanes, or this revitalized running game for the Miami Hurricanes. So, Lance, in terms of the Carson Beck of it all here, again, you're talking about different defenses. Pass defense is not quite as good. The running game is playing better against some of these weaker defenses. That's allowing him to have a little more room to operate. But just in general, what have you seen from Carson Beck over these past couple weeks? Shannon Dawson says really since SMU, in his view, he's seen Beck take it to another level.
Yeah, I felt like Beck played probably his best game against NC State, right? Where he was seeing it quickly. His release really looks to be more fluid than what it looked maybe earlier in the season, where, I even raised a question that maybe he had something bothering him as far as an injury goes, things like that. His arms looked a little more live. And I think the biggest thing is, he hasn't faced quite as much pressure against some of these, poor defenses that he's been going against. Where Beck has really struggled in his career, in my opinion, is, whenever the picture changes post snap and he's not able to see it quickly, he resets that base. He gets a little narrow, right? And his arm drags just a little bit on some of those intermediate throws. And that's whenever he gets into trouble with turnovers a little bit, right? We haven't seen quite as much of that pressure in the last few games. And he's been able to kind of see it on that first read and hit it. I think we've also seen a little bit, things have opened up a little bit with the run game improving, right? And keeping a little more on schedule. He's not facing some of those 3rd and longs where he's basically got to make a play into tight windows, things like that. And the other one is the emergence of Marion, right? He's really given them one additional weapon that the defense has had to account for just a little bit. And he started finding him as a first read rather than, force feeding Tony quite as much. I think that's just that natural progression that you see as the season goes along, right? Where, Tony probably wasn't the focus of Notre Dame's defense, right? Until he torched them in the first half, right? And then they moved their best corner onto him in the second half to try and slow that down just a little bit. Now the evolution is, right? Now the next guy's got to kind of like step up. The next weapon's kind of got to emerge. And Keelan Marion's really kind of done that a little bit. He's been very efficient in these last few games where it seems like him and Beck have something going on. Personally, I felt like we forced Trader into the lineup just a little bit. Maybe we had promises or maybe some of those other things come along with that, the politics that come with that. And
there's
Trader,
to me, there's no politics. There's no politics, Lance.
Okay, no politics, he says. My guy over here says no politics, even though
no politics in college football, man.
No politics in college football. Nobody's getting paid. They're all doing it for the love. We got it. But so Trader to me was making little mistakes with his routes. He wasn't running them far enough. He wasn't coming back to the football as he should have. Wasn't attacking in some of those spaces. Beck was trying to throw with anticipation. He got into a little bit of trouble at times where, him and Trader weren't seeing it the same. But it looks to me like him and Marion are seeing it the same, right? And so now you've got kind of two pieces who have really started evolving as the year's gone along. And that's allowed Beck to really just have a little bit more comfort. Plus, I go back to his release and some of those things that I'm seeing a little bit more smoothly. Maybe he's either gotten over whatever was bothering him or maybe he's just gotten comfortable.
And imagine you can hopefully be getting CJ Daniels back here as well in the next couple of weeks. So would be nice.
Yeah, Daniels is kind of the blanky type, right? He's out there. He blocks really strong. He's really a leader in that room. He's one of the people that you can count on to be where they're supposed to be. So if you get a situation where Marion, has that comfort and that continues, you've got Tony, who's a star, right? You already know what you've got with him. And then Daniels is kind of like the blankie out there. He's that Restrepo, I need a guy. I know where he's going to be. I know he's going to be exactly what he should be, and he's going to make a tough catch type. You really start to have a well-balanced offense at that point. And I think you kind of see this offense move from, maybe pretty good, which is what they've been to this point in the year, to really getting back to where they're not just not losing the game, but maybe they're finding ways to actually like win games in some of these tough games down the stretch. And, if they're lucky enough to get into the playoff, you really are going to need a pretty strong effort from both sides to have a chance to win the games there.
And Lance, something that Steve Kim mentioned with us yesterday was there was times last weekend where you had 3 freshman receivers on the field at once with Josh Moore, Dalen Upshaw, and Malachi Tony. And then obviously with Pringle getting in the mix. So some nice base of skill position guys there.
Yeah, this freshman class, it's probably something I'll write about in the offseason quite a bit, but it looks to be like one of those foundational transformational type classes. And we haven't even seen the highest rated guy yet, in Hayden Lowe, who everyone talks about is, looks the part and was playing the part in practice and doing those things. So the ability to see these freshmen, hit the field and make an impact early, it really opens up a lot of options when you do get into the off season and you're making some of those evaluations on where you want to spend your money and what you want to do with that. Right. And if you don't have to go out and spend, $1 million plus on one of these wide receivers in the off season, that allows you to kind of have some options elsewhere. And
listen, you may not have to, you may not have to, but you may want to.
Yeah, well, I know one guy is going to have to get paid a lot of money.
He's in basketball mode. He wants to get those 60-point, offenses, right? So,
I'd rather not spend so we could save some money for the basketball team.
Well, I know one guy who's going to be paid a lot. So that's part of the equation too. Is Malachi Toney, you expect him to come back as one of the stars of college football. So that comes with a price tag. Which, listen. Those are good problems, right, Lance? I know you're a draft and develop.
There's your seven-figure guy right there, right? You're probably going to be up in whatever you're giving Tony after this year. I agree with that. So that's also a consideration, right? To build a program, you've got to have the next pieces already starting to fit into place, so you understand the picture of what you've got to go out and get, especially in today's world, right? And with some of these freshmen that you see on a trajectory, that just allows you to say, okay, I don't need to really have to, go out and get a foundational guy whenever you've already got one, you've got some complementary pieces, but maybe you do go get someone else as well to fit in just to kind of have a little more certainty there. I do want to get into Virginia Tech just a little bit in this game. I'm kind of excited about seeing what they do here, as well as, they had some big news this week for their program, so I assume they'll have some excitement. They'll probably have some energy in the stadium as well, which will be kind of fun. I personally like it when the Virginia Techs and the Florida States at least have some sort of energy in the stadium when you go play those games. That's fun for me. I kind of enjoy that. So Virginia Tech going out and making, in my opinion, probably the very best hire they could have made in the entire country, honestly. When you look at their program, they're not getting Saban to come out of retirement and go there, So when you look at what was realistic for them, they, to me, probably could not have done any better than what they did with getting a James Franklin, who in many ways is a Mario Cristobal type of coach, maybe a little light, in my opinion, because Mario's probably won a few more of those big matchup non-conference type games than Franklin has in his career. But they're both obsessed recruit type head coaches. And, that'll be exciting for Virginia Tech whenever you're in that, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Virginia area. There's some great players there, and Franklin will probably get a few of them now. And that'll hopefully help the ACC, which hopefully helps Miami, because Miami's going to start dominating it soon, right? And win
one of these days.
We're going to see that soon, right?
We progressed to dominating the SEC and the top 10 of the college football playoff, which happened in the first part of the year. ACC is the final frontier, right? We kind of skipped. I thought ACC would be a stepping stone on the way to dominating teams like Notre Dame and Florida, but turns out it was the last frontier.
You get the warm up on those lesser conferences like the SEC and those kinds of things before you get into ACC play. I really like the way they built that out. Have a few easy games early, with the SECs and the Notre Dames. Then you get into the tough stuff, right, where you get into ACC play, right? So, Virginia Tech, they're going to run – their offense is going to look very similar if you have ever watched Tennessee and Heupel and some of those, right? They run the same system. Montgomery runs a veer and shoot. He's got Baylor roots. So if you think back to kind of like Briles when he was at Baylor, it's the same offense, right? They're going to run that. We really want to get 3-by-1. If you think 3-by-1, if you think like field side, which is the wide side where there's more space, you're going to have 3 receivers over there. One of them's almost going to be touching the sideline, right? He's really space oriented. They don't run the pace quite to the level that, those teams did, but it's the same scheme from a standpoint of alignment. And then you're going to have a backside X, right, who's going to have choice routes. So what a choice route essentially means is whatever the defensive alignment is, if you read that right and you run whatever your choice route is against that defense, right? So they're going to run 11 personnel, which I kind of talked about with the 3 receivers. That's just 1 running back, 1 tight end. They're going to run that almost all the time, right? Their DNA in the ground game, they are a very ground-based veer and shoot. So what they really want to do is they really want to control things in the ground game. They want to get ahead of the chains. So they want that 6-7 yards, first and second downs all the time to live in those 3rd and 2s. They're going to insert the quarterback into their run game. Really, they run very similar run scheme to what Miami runs, where they're very inside zone duo based in their blocking. The big difference, of course, is their offensive line sucks, which means they're not able to maintain those doubles. The defenders are able to split them, get into the backfield, get them off chain, right? And then now you're looking at 2nd and 12s, 3rd and 8s. And Drones is a strong physical runner. I like his physical tools. I like what he brings in that regard. But it's really in the passing element and reading a defense that he's tended to struggle. So, I kind of talked about Virginia Tech's offense is that veer and shoot. They're really built on the 11 personnel, inside zone, duo, ground game. They want to build everything off of that. That's like their DNA blueprint. And then once they start layering onto it, right, the next thing they're layering on is they want to layer on those quick RPOs. Again, very Miami-esque in that regard, right? Miami runs very much the glance stick RPO game, and you see the same thing out of Virginia Tech. The way Miami is going to attack this, right? Miami matches up very well with Virginia Tech's offense, which of course is bad news for me to say because it never goes the way I think it will there. But
but I think you should be all right, Lance. I think you should be all right because as far as I know, I don't know that Kyron Drones has a cousin on the other side to motivate him this year. So
sounds good, yeah. So Miami, they're going to run their typical 4-2-5. They're going to run the light box, right? They're gonna lag up front. I've kind of talked several times on this podcast about what that is, but they're essentially gonna lag behind any kind of like pullers, any kind of splits, any kind of zone, and try and attack the back hip, which cuts off any backside runs, forces them front side into the flow of the defense, and then those lag defenders are gonna trail and try and make backside tackles, right? And then in coverage, Heatherman really exploits and matches up very well with this veer and shoot offense, the way that they're going to try and run that 3-by-1 field side. Virginia Tech will attach a bubble to it, but for the most part, they're going to run out of that 3-by-1. They're going to run a switch release for your 1 and 2, right? And that just means they switch routes, right? Where your 1 becomes your 2 receiver and your 2 becomes your 1 receiver. If you think about the field, if you're the quarterback and you've got the 3 wide receivers to your right, let's say the field side's to your right there, the one that's closest to the sideline, the receiver closest to the sideline is your 1. The one that's next closest to the sideline is your 2. Then your inside receiver is going to be your 3, right? Well, your 2 outside, they just switch at whenever they start their routes. And so the outside guy now becomes inside, becomes your 2. Your inside guy goes outside, becomes your 1. That's what I'm talking about whenever I talk about those things. What you're really trying to do with that is you're trying to break pattern match rules in the secondary. So the way Miami defends these switch routes and these vertical shots that Virginia Tech tries to attach to their run game is they either match it or bracket it. Match it, bracket. So matching it it's exactly what it sounds, right? So whenever individuals, we're matching to our number. So if I am the outside cornerback, I'm matching 1. I'm matching the 1 receiver in that situation, right? So you switch it to get a defender to lose his rule, right? So if he doesn't see the switch and doesn't identify that the 2 has become the 1, maybe he sticks with the 1, no one goes with the 2, who then becomes the new 1, right? And he's got open vertical shots, right? So that's what you're trying to do with the switch route. You're trying to exploit.
When you say match, before the responsibility there, let's say you have the 1, is it to stay with that individual as the 1, or to stay with whoever is the 1 in the event of a switch when it is match?
Yep, you stay with your number whenever you're matching. So when I get into the bracket side of things, So the way that Miami can switch up that coverage so that the offense doesn't always know, well, I'm always matching, so I can, run routes that exploit the match, right? With like wheel and some of those other things that can really break those rules. I now bracket it, right? And so I will bracket it essentially in two ways, right? I'm either going to meg it, which is to do the exact opposite of what I just talked about. So whenever you hear meg, that just means man everywhere they go. So that just means I'm in man coverage regardless of what number they are. So now if I'm in meg and I'm bracketing those switch releases, now wherever my one receiver goes, I just stay with him. So it doesn't matter if he becomes the 2 or if he becomes the 3. Now I'm just man everywhere with him. So then flip side, now whoever's guarding my 2 receiver, he's meg as well. So he's just man anywhere that individual goes, even if he becomes the 1, right? So that's kind of a good switch to your just typical pattern matching rules. You've got to have good corners to do that. You got to have a safety who can cover. Miami has that, right? So we can run meg against this offense and handle some of those vertical shots. The other way is what I talked about where you bracket it, right? So you can bracket it with meg or you can bracket it with lurk. And lurk is fun sounding, type coverage. What that really means now is just my play side or front side safety is now running. He's running at the 2 rather than just getting deep. So a lot of times, like when you think about your safety, right, and you think of them just kind of getting deep on those vertical shots, right? But with lurk, he becomes a robber. And a robber is just what it sounds like, right? He's trying to get to a certain area that you think the pass may get force-fed to, and he's trying to rob it or intercept it or just throw off the read of the quarterback. What often happens is the quarterback's not expecting your safety to stay flat. And when a flat is just what I was talking about earlier, right? Where they're not going deep at the snap. Now they stay flat at the depth that they're at, and they're inserting themselves into some zone, right? Well, the quarterback's not expecting that. And so what that happens is a lot of times they pat the ball or they read it and have to see it late, right? And you've given your pressure more time to get there. The other thing that happens a lot of times is quarterbacks will marry their feet to their release. And so when they're marrying their feet to their release and it's not what they expected it to be, now their base is either long or narrow, and that causes, scatter shot accuracy. It causes sacks, and then sometimes, it even causes turnovers and interceptions, things like that. So that's what Miami's going to do from a coverage standpoint. Their D-line is going to do exactly what it's trying to do in any game you watch so far. We're going to see a lot of Roscoe outside, which is just rush outside, contain on edge, right? We're trying to keep drones pinched in the pocket outside. The worst place for an edge defender to be is behind the quarterback, right? So that's when you get upfield, and you get too far up. That opens up those rush lanes, right? You never want to do that with a quarterback like Drones, who that's where his comfort zone is, right? Yep. Is in going forward and running, right? So you're trying to pinch him, and where you really want to get pressure is up the middle, right? So you're trying to split those doubles. I talked about Virginia Tech lives in those duos and inside zones, which looks very similar. If you're actually looking at it on film, you kind of have to know whether it's inside zone or duo from all 22 most of the time. But anyway, the inside, you want to split that. So you're either splitting it with, maybe a Teray is blitzing, or you've got a safety creeper, or maybe you stunt inside, those kinds of things, right? And so if you split that and get into the backfield, you can get some of those negative plays. And Virginia Tech has no chance if they get off schedule on offense, because they're just not very good on offense to begin with. Their offensive line is terrible. So if Miami is able to do that early, get them off script and, force a turnover, force a bunch of punts and get up 14, something like that, the game's over. So the whole plan for Virginia Tech has to be to score early and keep this game, on track early. And that's what you saw with like SMU, right? Where, they were able to just kind of stick around, keep that game close, and Miami made some mistakes late, and that's how they won. It's the same script you're going to see for Virginia Tech in this game. And then whenever Virginia Tech's on defense, they're really going to run a lot of stunts up front. They run an NFL defense. Their defensive coordinator, I think this is his first year there, but he came from the NFL, coached defensive line, some linebackers, things like that. So his focus is front seven. You see that in Virginia Tech's defense, right? That's where the strength of their team is. They're pretty strong up front. They really do rush with four. They've got one guy, Ben something, I believe.
Yeah, from the guy from Army, number 13.
Yeah, really good rusher in my opinion. A little undersized, but will really give our tackles some problems. I think if we just leave him on islands the whole time and let him cook, as they say. But what they'll do a lot is they'll do in-tackle stunts and try and break the rules for your offensive line, and where they fail to pass off or they don't see it. That's going to be how they get a lot of those quick pressures. And what they're going to try and do with that, right, is get Miami off schedule, force a turnover, things like that. And that's how you're going to see Virginia Tech stay in this game. If they do, you're probably going to see, a rowdy crowd. You're going to see some energized guys at the front at the start of the game. To me, it's a big focal point for Miami to come out hot and try and jump on top, get a lead, and quiet some of that down. If you don't see that happen, right, if you see starting getting into the third, fourth quarter where the game stays close, then you're inviting a lot of variance. I'd like to see Miami, pass early to run late, again, to try and get that lead a little bit. I'd like to see a little bit more pace out of them, especially, when Pringle's playing, catch Virginia Tech maybe in some sort of personnel package that you think you can exploit with Pringle by going a little bit fast. We haven't seen that from Miami this year, so I'm not expecting it, but I would like to see a little bit of that, especially early. And then late, you can start doing some more of the grind and, just chewing up the clock and really you just choke Virginia Tech out that way. So that's kind of what I saw. Not kind of, there's a lot of words, but that's what I saw for Virginia Tech on film as I was looking at them this week. That's what I think they're going to try and do as far as, adjustments to Miami. You'll see their guard tackle counter. You'll see some of their bash concepts in the run game if Miami takes away their bread and butter inside zone and duo as I expect them to, right? Miami's defense has been elite this year. It's not just been, the Ruben Bain show or Akeem Mesidor show. At every level, we've got players who have been playing quite well. Even the linebackers who, last year you maybe had some concerns with. To me, Heatherman's done just an unbelievable job with coaching those players. Some of the same players they look drastically different on film. They're seeing things. They're understanding their assignments just a little bit more. Simple motion doesn't, look like Mandarin to our defenders anymore, which has been a great, thing for me to see on film a little bit. And, I just love our tight fronts. They're not always exactly tight. Sometimes they're mint. Sometimes they're just variations of tight, but it's basically tight-esque the whole game or most of the game. And they use a light box and invite that run and just choke these offenses off. They've done great with that. And then we're getting our money's worth with some of these corners, who are really doing a good job of not just coverage, but also tackling on the outside. This defense does require your defensive backs to be able to tackle, and we're seeing that a lot. So excited with what Miami is showing me. I do need to, end my appearance here in the next few minutes or so, but you got any last questions for me?
Yeah, go ahead. P, you had one? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, looking at last week's game, we spoke so much about how they would counteract the loss of Keontae Scott. Lance, I mean, what were your thoughts about what they did there? Obviously rotated a few guys. We saw a few different players in that role, but it wasn't like, at least last week, it wasn't a striking. It's a big loss for me. I'm not putting it that way, but what I'm trying to say is that the guys who filled in, I think did a really good job.
Another freshman, right? Another guy who looks like he could be a star in the future, where Bryce Fitzgerald, he really had a lot of snaps in that role, looked great out there at the start of the game. He really started in that spot. I think one of the very first plays, he had a pass breakup, really drove on the ball, got his hand in there without interfering. Excellent play there. I think Pruitt got some snaps in that role as well whenever you wanted to go a little more big nickel. So it was a lot of what you expected. I'll admit it was more Fitzgerald than I called, right? I think I called a little more Pruitt and Thomas and some others helping in that role. And we did see quite a bit of that also. In fact, Jacoby Thomas probably had his best game as a Cane, maybe as in college last game.
Yep.
But they really did use Fitzgerald quite a bit more than I expected and was happy to see it. He played great.
Lance, you're the man. Appreciate you every Friday. Have a good weekend. Hopefully celebrating another victory next week and preparing for another huge game, man. So again, thank you to Canada Financial for getting this done for us. And Lance, appreciate you.
All right. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
All right, Pete, before we get started here, I want to talk basketball and recruiting and all the other stuff that people want to talk about. First, I'm going to talk about my friends at Islas Canarias because I know the holidays are coming up and you're going to want to cater and show off your knowledge of various cuisines, including Cuban cuisine, whether you're Cuban or not, it doesn't matter. Go to Islas Canarias Cuban Express. Look at all these catering options, whether it's just croquetas, empanadas, sweets, or just all of the above. Go ahead and get your catering taken care of nice and easy with Islas Canarias Express. Or if you want to go to the just store, which I'll probably go to, or to the restaurant, probably go to for lunch today, right there in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, you get the brisket croqueta partnership with Apocalypse Barbecue, which is flying off the shelves, man. That thing is on fire, and all the other various options. Islas Canarias Cuban Express, the #1 Cuban restaurant on planet Earth. One more, Pete, which is tomorrow. I will be watching the game at Duffy's Tavern right there on the edge of Coral Gables. Home away from home for Pete and many, many others. It is the Cheers of Miami and the home of the Hurricanes. Like I said, I will be there. Now accepting credit cards at Duffy's after 60 years. This institution is now accepting credit cards. So going to the modern era while still keeping that classic flavor. Again, this is not Duffy's, the chain, which you see in mini malls and is like cookie cutters. Again, this is the real deal. Pride of the community, home of the Hurricanes, right at the edge of Coral Gables. You see a million pictures of Canes history, Canes lore, legends, Hall of Famers who stopped there at Duffy's Tavern. I remember seeing Dennis Erickson there during a booster event. He was talking about how he used to live at Duffy's Tavern, maybe a little too much, but he was joking about it. But man, this is a place that's been serving Miami Hurricanes forever. So tomorrow, noon game, million TVs. I will be there watching the game with my family. Come and stop by, say what's up at Duffy's Tavern right there in the edge of Coral Gables. And you can stay the whole day because they got games going on all day. And then, of course, on NFL Sunday, Duffy's Tavern. P, all right, let's get back to what we saw last night with the Canes over Elon. My big takeaway, and I said this to you off air, is Shelton Henderson, who didn't have it's not like he had some insane game. But just now having watched him a few games here to start the year and seeing him up close twice, this guy to me, I remember we signed Darius Rice, right? Jerry Rice's nephew, who ended up being a Canes great for us. He was, to me, the first parade All-America that I can remember. Maybe someone can remind me of another one, but that was the first one that I can remember.
Hall of Famer, Canes Hall of Famer.
And he was a great player for us. A Connecticut win, one of the biggest wins in program history at the time. He was great. Lonnie Walker, 5-star, who's having a great. Let me just look it up here. How many games Lonnie Walker played in the pros?
He's in Greece now,
but he played
he had a big run for the Lakers there in the playoffs a few years back.
Yeah, 342 NBA games. So the guy played a lot of pro basketball.
And will probably be coming back for the playoff run, as a lot of these guys who play overseas do.
Yeah, over 3,400 points in the NBA. So this guy was a real NBA player and would have done more, I think, for the Canes in that season if not for some injury concerns. Then, of course, a miracle shot. Bruce Brown was a 5-star, great player as well. Also part of that team that I think could have made a run.
I don't know that Bruce Brown was a 5-star, D. I think
I thought he was borderline. Let's see.
He was borderline, but he wasn't a true 5. I don't think.
He might not have been a true 5, but I could have sworn. I know we got him. He was, among the biggest.
Highly.
Oh yeah, no, he was I'm looking at him now. He was a 5-star in 247. He was the 23rd player nationally. Composite, he was kind of like I said, right on the border. A 5-star in 247, 23rd national player. A high 4-star on composite, 28 national players. So a big.
Yes,
right.
Blue chip, sure.
So, and he was a great player and is still in the NBA contributing to a winning team who's going to compete for a championship. And then, of course, Shalia Bethea last year, not quite what you hoped it would be. To me, Shelton Henderson and it's very early for this take, and this take might end up looking terrible. I think he's going to be the best 5-star we've signed because he has obviously the size and the physical tools. The way this guy competes, there was a play, Pete, yesterday, and I know you remember because you were right in front of it. You were probably like 10 feet away from the play. We were up by 1, and Elon was rolling. This was the first half. The crowd was getting a little restless. Elon was playing really well. This was later, closer to halftime. And there was a loose ball. And it looked like Elon was about to take that ball the other way, take the lead, and for sure there would have been a timeout, and it would have been a momentum point of the game. Henderson grabs it from a crowd, goes up, finishes, and won. And after that, we pretty much controlled the rest of the game. And it was one of those things where it's like, it's not just the talent and the size, but the grit that he has and the just being locked in. Mentally, he reminds me of Bruce Brown in that way. It's just kind of like he's a 5-star, but he's really like a blue-collar type of a competitor. But then, of course, he has the body of like a Justice Winslow, an NBA-type player. So to me, we saw him hit threes yesterday. That stroke's looking good. I know he's been working on it, Pete. I don't know if you have info on just what he's been doing with his shot, but even the shots he was taking after the whistle look good.
Yeah, well, that I was gonna say, honestly, he's been the same player to me early in the season. But last night, the difference was hitting that outside shot. If he can hit 1 or 2 a game like that, it is going to open up how teams are going to have to play him on the perimeter a little bit more, where he can then put the ball on the ground and attack and bagging up in the comments, talking about our guard play and talking about. Look, I think with Trey Donaldson, you understood he wasn't going to be the most efficient shooter. But I think what I appreciate with Trey Donaldson, D, is he stays in the attack mode. He's trying to get – it's one thing to have a guy who isn't the most efficient shooter, but like if they aren't still trying to get to their spots and like he doesn't let the shooting affect the rest of his game. And by the way, True Washington is no certified brick thrower. I mean, that's what I've seen early in the season here.
Yeah.
True Washington, 7 for 9 from the floor. I mean, he's been shooting the ball well here in the early part of the season. 2 for 3 from 3. He's giving you more from the 3-point line and from the perimeter than I probably expected. Dante Allen, you like to see him getting some and I knew this confidence would come with him. First game he looked jittery, and every game he's continued to look more comfortable, and there was no hesitation in his shot last night. 3 for 5 from 3, 14 points for Dante Allen. Just in general, yes. Do you want that consistent go-to guy? And I think that's going to be a Malik Renew, really throwing it into him and letting him going and working and getting one-on-one buckets. But the scoring balance, man, is something that you really love. 19 for Malik Renew, 16 for Henderson, 14 Allen, 18 Washington, 18 Trey Donaldson. And again, with Trey Donaldson, he's still getting to his spots. He's getting to the basket. He's getting into the teeth of the defense, creating. That's very, very important to me, D.
No doubt about it. You mentioned True Washington. He's better on offense than I thought he was. Like, he's good on offense. I mean, I don't know if he's ACC good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go too crazy, but like he can score. He's scoring in the paint too, on top of the shooting. So no, he's better than I thought. I should say on offense. That's probably the best way to say it. The one guy that I'd love to see get more aggressive offensively is Timo, the Slovakian, number 88. His shot looks good. His handle looks good. He had a great finish yesterday in transition, but there were a couple times, and tell me, you were right there. You were touching wood, so you were seeing really up close. He just seems a little unsure. Again, he's coming from Europe. It's a whole new culture, new style of basketball. He's trying to fit in. Nothing is that unusual. Even Keyshawn George, you saw a little bit early in his time with Miami, whereas now you see him in Washington Wizards, and he's shooting like every time he touches the ball. But I would like to see maybe a little more assertiveness from Timo to either when you're open, let it fly, and when they start closing in, he can attack too. His handle's good enough. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive.
Yeah, I think he's getting used to the role, right? We saw in the summer when he was playing with the Slovakian national team, the real national team, not the under-21 team. He was the primary ball handler. He's playing more off ball now. I think talking to people around the program before the season, his ability to get to the basket draw fouls was something that you really heard a lot about. I think just the speed, the physicality is still an adjustment for him. But yes, I want to see him get downhill. I want to see him be more assertive with his shot. But he's going to continue to get these minutes. He's going to continue to get these opportunities because his skill set is what it is. And by the way, it's not like he's going in there and like not looking like he belongs. I just think like you're talking about here, the confidence, you want to see it continue to grow.
Yeah, and that's just, again, there's time for it. It's not, I think it's unusual for European players. Your boy, the Turkish delight, you were going crazy. We talked about it earlier when he got a bucket in. He's another one. I don't know if it's necessarily an aggression problem with him, just kind of getting used to it. You saw him lose the ball a couple times. I just think just
foot speed. I mean, there's a couple times he was isolated down low and just guys are a little quicker than him. But again, it was nice, and I mentioned this before, it was nice to see what they looked like going small ball last night because you had Ernest Uday out, Malik Renew at the 5, Shelton at the 4, Dante at the 3, then True Washington and Trey Donaldson. And I think those that might end up being one of your better offensive lineups right there, D. But Uday is still going to be very important for this team here moving forward.
No doubt. Then you reported it sounds like he's going to be okay. Just in general, man, I mean, I don't know these players, right? I haven't interviewed them. I haven't talked to the families, so I just know them from watching them on TV or in person like everybody else. But just watching from a distance, I really, really like Renew, Donaldson, Henderson, Allen. I mean, I like a lot more than just those guys, but like your most hyped players, whether it's from high school or from the transfer portal, they compete every single play very, very hard. I'll put them on the upper level of that. Renew, who's more of a scoring player, he is very competitive. His head's always in the game. He doesn't pout when he doesn't get the ball. He just has a very good temperament to him, as does Donaldson, who's like a football player out there. And then, of course, the 2 freshmen who I think are really mentally advanced. So I like when your most highly paid players have that approach. Look, there's going to be games where they don't get it go. You saw Florida. There's going to be a lot of games like that where they just are playing a really, really good team. They don't have enough firepower. We get it. But I like watching this team compete. And I don't know if you're getting the same feeling. And it's not that down any other teams, but it feels different from the top down, consistent effort level.
Well, and the ball, I mean, it's one thing to say the shooting, they aren't the best shooting team in the country. We understand that going in. This was not going to be their bread and butter. But the ball moves, man. It does not stick. Very little ISO, very, very little ISO basketball going on. I mean, the bulk of what you see is really just throwing it into Malik and letting him go get a bucket. Bagging up says he's not impressed by the offensive skill level. Look, it's more the shooting because these guys can skill level. There's more to offensive skill than shooting the basketball.
Yeah, Henderson can dribble.
They can handle the ball. The passing has been good. Like there's more to it than that. I always used to say with Justice Winslow, one of my issues with him, D, was like he just looked lost when everyone was always talking about Justice Winslow. He couldn't shoot the ball. We understood that. But like when he got the ball, the flow of the offense stopped in his hands a lot of times, right? You're not seeing that with this team right now. And I think that's when we talk about Shelton Henderson, a lot of people have made that comparison, Shelton Henderson and Justice Winslow. I love the assertiveness from him early on this season.
Yeah, he's got bigger hands.
And Kyle makes a very good point. Getting to the free throw line, that is offensive skill. Like getting guys to force you to foul means that you're getting into position where you're getting to the cup. Like they have a lot of guys who can get to. Trey Donaldson can get to the cup. Malik can get to the cup. Like they have guys who can. Dante Allen, he can get by you and then facilitate, right? So they didn't have not Nigel Pack. If the deep three wasn't falling, he wasn't going to dribble by anyone and get into the lane and create for others. Right. That was an issue. Jaleel Bethea, who you were counting on last year, who he's been hurt to start the year here for Bama, hasn't played, but he wasn't a guy that was creating for others or really creating for himself last year.
Blackman, same thing.
Blackman, who was a shooter. Just he wasn't quick enough. He wasn't strong enough to get by people at this level. and consistently create offense. So yes, shooting obviously is the most important thing when it comes to the offense side of the ball, but you've got guys who have other skills that, as this team comes together, you're starting to see an identity.
No doubt. And look, backing up's not wrong in terms of like,
Yeah,
we know what when you play a Florida, when you play some of these ACC, higher level ACC teams, when you play Gonzaga here BYU coming up, there's going to be, there's things we have to improve on, and that there's going to be a ceiling to some of the things we can do in certain areas. But I do hear what you're saying. This is not like a team of just this doesn't know what they're doing on offense. I think even Renew, who you would think, like before the season, I'm like, I wonder if we're just going to have possessions where we just throw him the ball down low and say, go to work. But like even his points, a lot of it are like quick attacks. Like they'll get it to him and then he'll make a quick attack and a finish. Like it's not just like, hey, Renew, we're dumping the ball off to you. You're bigger than the guy that's covering you. Just pound it. Like he's scoring a lot within the flow of the offense too, which is what I didn't know as much about Renew's game. I saw him in Indiana. I knew he had good touch around the basket, but like his overall IQ and knowing how to attack and how to move without the ball, how to make quick attacks when he catches it. I'm very impressed with him. I like Renew's demeanor, man. I like the way he competes. He's passing the ball. He's throwing alley-oops to the big men when they're there. He's shooting now more. He's even competing on defense. He had a nice, I don't know if it was a block or a deflection. He had a big,
it was a block. Yeah.
He had a big defensive play yesterday
at the rim.
Yeah. Just it's a fun team to cheer for, man. I encourage everybody who lives down here to get out there and watch this team, or at least just watch them on TV, because they're fun to watch. They compete, and Jay Lucas, young guy trying to make his way, and I like how the team's responding to him early on.
Yeah, and I think, look, as Kyle says here, it's what I keep talking about. You have 4 guys who can get to the rim from the perimeter. I understand it's Elon. I understand the teams are playing right now, but man, we were watching these same games last year, D, and they didn't, like, those concerns were showing up early in those games.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, you said it. Bethea, Pack, Blackman, none of those guys get to the rim. The only player last year that could get to the rim was Divine. And that was it. And he was a freshman. He had his own problems, but we had like no rim pressure at all. Whereas now I think we have really, 5 or 6 guys that can put pressure on the rim at different levels, with Renew being a consistent, forceful presence right there at the rim. So Pete, before we switch on to football, let them know who brings us this Canes basketball coverage.
Aries Law PA. Check out AriesLawPA.com as I pull up the website here. Estate planning. So wills, trusts, you got to plan your future so others don't. It's not something that we like to talk about very much, but it's a necessity. Schedule your free consultation today with Aries Law Attorneys at Law. Check out AriesLawPA.com. There he is. Pedro Aries right there. Experience you can trust. And D, real quick, just because Canes Cats Heat, our boy, he's been commenting this for a little bit. He's asking about Sally Altuntadra, with concern for him. I think we have to understand what he was brought here to do, to be a depth big man right now, and we're 5 games into it. So concern is a strong word. I think he's there to provide some size, some physicality. As you get into ACC play, we'll see how he fares against some of these better athletes, I would say. But concern is a strong word. I think it's nice to have that piece of depth that was not there the last few years. You just didn't even have that size as a starter. So,
no doubt. Yeah, exactly. Like what we did yesterday to start with Uday out was what we did all year. Really, I mean, kid was not, he's a unique player, but that the depth of physicality inside, I think is a whole different deal. So, no, excited to watch the team, man. Let's talk real quick some football questions I wanted to get to. The layman, appreciate you being on. Enjoy having you live. Shannon saying, do you think that Fletcher will run into the back end of our center and guards again? Look, if Fletcher's running for 5+ yards a carry like he was, burying guys, running the ball, I think we're going to be in good shape. People focus on Fletcher as like the weakness in our running game. Fletcher was the only good part of our running game consistently, really. I mean, Marty Brown, who I like and I think is good, and I think is a guy we need to keep because he's a winning football player. He was only at 4 yards a carry. Lyle really, really struggled. I think that was a surprise, certainly to me and to others. He was at 3 yards a carry. Pringle 6+. But Fletcher was getting 5+ yards a carry on top of converting, scoring touchdowns at a very high rate, and then physically wearing down teams. He also gives you an ability when you play at Notre Dame, when you play Florida, when you play teams with actual NFL players on defense. He gives you that physical presence that you need. And I think really the best thing that could happen to Pringle is the return of Fletcher, because now you have a guy that can take some pressure off him. And Pringle's a guy that's been hurt in the past. He's small, so you don't want to overload him. We all agree he's the guy you want to feed more, but you don't want to overload him. You see Desmond Reed for Pitt. He's always banged up. Isaac Brown for Louisville hasn't played in a few weeks, kind of honestly derailed Louisville's season when he got hurt. So you want to protect these guys and allow them to make those impactful plays they're capable of. And a guy like Fletcher can protect him by getting some of those carries, the tougher carries. Also, he plays passing downs. He can block. He can catch. And then, of course, short yardage, he's your guy. So I think in a perfect world, and Lyle and Pringle, I think, are competing for some of the same role, but let's obviously Pringle being ahead in that role right now. Let's say Pringle, your back that's making these big runs, Fletcher being the thunder and lightning, and then Marty being that sort of do-it-all utility guy who holds you down. That to me is a good running back room heading in. And if Lyle can get going, even better. But if that doesn't happen, those three I think can carry you as you get into this cold stretch of temperature games.
Are we sure it's going to be that cold tomorrow?
It's not, but it's going to be cold against Pitt.
Yeah, I think we probably dodged a little bullet there for tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow should be good shape, but I mean we got to play well, which I think we will. I just think the question is going to be how pumped is Virginia Tech going to be? A team like this with no coach can be very, like we've seen it with us. They roll over, or they might compete and be exciting with a crowd that's excited about James Franklin. So we'll see. The thing I struggle with Virginia Tech is if they can't throw at all, which they haven't been able to. Pete, listen to this. Their number 2 receiver, Donovan Green, the transfer they got from Wake Forest, who's been a productive ACC receiver, was the number 2 receiver this year. He just quit the team this week. Like he just left. I don't know what happened. Hopefully it's nothing bad at home or something like that. But apparently he just retired like in the middle of the year. So hopefully, again, nothing bad. Kind of.
He was a guy that was older, right? I remember doing.
Yeah, he was like 24.
We did a. I remember doing a group chat video on him when he committed.
Talented guy.
And he talented, but I remember us saying like, man, like I wonder if this is like who else are they going to bring in, because they really the drones. You got to wonder why he stayed. I got to say, D, because I don't think they really did much this offseason to help him. They lost Tootin to the NFL. They lost some other guys to the NFL. Like that was one I think at the time. To Auburn, right? They lost
Auburn, like tackle,
Xavier,
center or guard, one of their 2 starting.
So Mansour Delane on the other side. So they lost a lot of time. That was an interesting one because I liked what Drones, obviously what he did against Miami last year, but the skill set, he was a legit guy on NFL Raiders, and I think you asked NFL scouts before last season, he was for sure going to get drafted.
Virginia Tech had hype going into last year, and if you look at their roster, they had a lot of really, really good players. Like I mentioned, the 2 linemen that went SEC, Chaplin and Moore, they were 2 of the highest-rated players in the portal as far as offensive line. So those guys go out the door. You mentioned Tootin going to the NFL. Virginia Tech in general, I'm pulling up their draft history. Last year, they had 5 guys get drafted and a couple more in camps. Tootin, Jalen Lane at receiver. I think their other, he was a 4th-round pick. I think their other receiver was a camp guy. Dorian Strong, defensive back to Buffalo. The 2 defensive linemen that killed us, APR and Peebles, the 2 smaller, very quick pass rushers, they got drafted. And then again, we talked about Delane going to LSU, Stroman going to Virginia Tech. The 2 interior linemen moving on. So they lost a lot of guys, man. They're just not that talented, but this is that time of year where weird stuff happens. So Miami's got to go and take care of business, and I think jump on them early, really, because
and they've got to listen. They've got to finish some of these. They've got to finish some of these opportunities to sack them in the backfield, as Bagging Up said, because he said, "Have we ever sacked the kid?" I don't know if I have to look at the numbers, but it felt like they definitely didn't last year. That obviously way different defense. But that's the key. And look, this is the dirty little secret. There's been opportunities missed for sacks in the backfield with some guys. So you want to see some consistency there. Finish some of these plays.
G Nice, appreciate you. Says, would you guys consider drones in the portal? I don't know if he's even eligible, but I don't think this year that's in the cards. I will say last year he was a candidate. That I can confirm that now that we know how it all played out. Obviously, Carson Beck, I think, much better option than drones, my personal opinion, and the production wise has been there. But drones was considered as a guy that they would go at after last year. So that was a real thing if he were to go in the portal. Of course, he didn't go in the portal, so it wasn't like didn't go very far. But that was something where, like, they monitor guys to see if they go in the portal so they're not just caught flat-footed. And that was someone that they did work on. There's no question about that.
220 Greenwich makes a good point. He says Cam's 3 turnovers in the first half really changed that game. People forget. Yeah, it did. But that happened to be the story with Cam sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we've been a pretty good turnover team lately. It just shows you the difference. So, like, when we had TVD, I'm just pulling up turnovers here because I actually hadn't looked at these stats until yesterday's show, but it caught my attention. So in 2003 with TVD, we were 109. 23. Sorry, yeah, we were 109th in giveaways. Then last year with Cam Ward, I believe we were 50th. Yep, 50th on the dot. And then this year, right now with Carson Beck, we've been better this year with fumbling and probably worse with picks, but 43rd in the nation, which is not bad. I'd like to see that continue to climb. I think we'll have a good shot to win these last two if we could keep that number going in the positive direction as opposed to the negative direction. 305 sellers might end up like drones. I mean, maybe I could see some similarities there. I could say drones never had the NFL buzz that sellers did. Sellers
not the top 10 like Sellers has had. No.
Yeah, Sellers has real NFL buzz still. I think he'd still get drafted top 4 rounds, like with this bad year he's had. Now he should come back to play somewhere, hopefully somewhere that doesn't hurt us or helps us. But I think Sellers probably has more talent, but it's not a bad comp by Louis. Big, strong guys, good arms. Bagging up with a great shot. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say real quick, and we'll get to bagging up's comment. If you guys aren't gonna be going to Duffy's tomorrow, if you're gonna be at home grilling up, Lomelo's Meat Market. If you're local, 9810 South Dixie Highway. If you're not local, you can still get it for next week. Fresh Wagyu beef delivered to your door. You got the Wagyu options. You got the prime meat as well. And you see all the beautiful marbling here with the different cuts of meat. Lomelo's Meat Market. Lomelos.com, promo code CIS10 for 10% off your order.
Again, to Bagging Up's comment here, he says, Drone's the second most prolific quarterback on design run plays nationally behind Haynes King. Yeah, this running game, I mean, they're top 25 in all the major rushing categories, including yards per carry, and then, of course, total yards. And I think Drone's a big part of that. And the key for Miami is avoiding those 3rd and 3s because that's where Drones really kills you. If you watch the game against Florida State pretty much handled Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech did have some success when they got to those 3rd and 3 situations because Drones just ran it, and he was pretty effective doing that. So if you can get him to 3rd and 7, and look, every team is better 3rd and 3 than 3rd and 7, but I think particularly Virginia Tech because there's such a big disparity between their quarterback's ability to run with power and their quarterback's ability to drop back and throw, particularly to these receivers who are not very good, and they can't really protect that well either. They're one of the worst pass protecting teams in the country. It's imperative that you get to those longer 3rd down opportunities in this particular matchup. It's important every week, so I'm not trying to overstate that. But in this particular week, I think it's absolutely critical. Again, I just pulled up Virginia Tech, 109th in the nation in sack percentage allowed. So they're getting sacked on 7.87% of their dropbacks. Their number 2 receiver, I just mentioned, retired from football last week. The number 1 receiver is not exactly a dominant player. They don't have a lot of options. So if you can get them to passing downs, they are in big, big trouble. If they can keep it like a Georgia Tech Army type situation where they're living in 3rd and 3, or really Miami plays like this too. They're living in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. It becomes tough because their quarterback is very, very hard to stop in those situations because of his strength and his power.
It's interesting, D. We always talk about these playoff things and common opponents and all that. Vanderbilt beat them 44-20. I wonder if Miami needs to win by 30 to impress them.
Yeah, I think we got to score. I think we got to score 40 plus. That to me is the number. If we could score 40 plus, we're going to be in good shape.
Hold on. I'm sorry, D.
Yeah, go.
So Primetime Rambo says I frustrate him sometimes with my optimism. Some people tell me I'm too negative. This is the polarizing figure that I am, I guess.
What can you say? Shout out to Primetime Rambo. Shout out to the Air Force, everybody in the armed services protecting the greatest country in the world. Greenwich says Cobra strangulation game, Pete, style this week. Pete, I know you are what's the word for a reptile expert? Let me look at this word. What's a reptile expert name? What's the name of this profession? You're a herpetologist.
That doesn't sound very good. Sounds like something else.
Although, look at this, Pete. Do you know? This is crazy. So look at this. One of the top herpetologists in the world right now. Let me pull this guy up. Maybe the people in the chat are familiar with this herpetologist. Brady Barr. So Brady Barr, herpetologist, host of Nat Geo Wild's Dangerous Encounters with Brady Barr. He's got 2 other shows about reptiles. He earned a PhD from the University of Miami.
There you go. Maybe we got to get him on.
The first known herpetologist to have captured all 23 extant species of crocodilians in his career. And look at this, Pete. Pete, how about this? Given your previous shows. In 2012, Barr testified before Congress on H.R. 511, which prohibited the importation of various species of constrictor snakes. So he's keeping constrictors out of the United States. But Pete,
it's a dangerous species, my friend. It's a dangerous species.
So, but if you can, as a herpetologist, can you correct?
I'm not going to call myself that. I'm not calling myself that.
As a reptile expert, can you correct 220 Greenwich on the cobra strangulation game?
It's a boa. The cobra can strike now. I wish we could, like I said, the morals of it, I can't necessarily get behind it. I can't speak on it. But let's breed them damn things, man.
That's Gerard Pringle. Gerard Pringle's the cobra. Maybe Mark Fletcher returning. Marty Brown, that's the constrict. We got the hybrid going right now. The illegal hybrid. Our boy Brady Barr might be testifying before Congress to stop these cobra constrictor hybrids in Miami Gardens, Florida, or in this case in Blacksburg. So here we go. Knox Kane Jr. Was that Pete rocking the fluorescent green courtside last night?
How could you tell?
Going crazy for the Turkish delight, scoring his first career points. Shout out to Kyle Seeloff, by the way, on the call, and Jack McClinton. Which Pete?
Jack McClinton will be. Yeah, I'll be recording with him now in the next half hour here. So we'll get the first Jack McClinton segment today.
So new profile pic, Pete. As I'm pulling up here, you got a new profile pic on Twitter.
Yes.
There you are, right there. Look at that.
Yes.
Touching wood
with the goat in the background there.
Oh yeah, there it is, Shalala. Did you guys have a conversation?
No, not yesterday. I have spoken to her before.
What did you guys talk about?
You got to keep those wood touching conversations on the wood, my friend. I can't divulge too much info.
GNX Experimental says Pete needs to carry a bow in his bag like Jake the Snake, weigh him down while jogging. I believe that Jake carried a python, didn't he? A ball python? Maybe it was a ball
snakes. For all the talk I do about them, I'm kind of squirmish about snakes, man. I don't love them.
By the way, so we had a win yesterday in basketball. Going to get a win tomorrow against Virginia Tech Hokies. You're looking for the rare triple win. KashKick app, the Play It Forward campaign, KashKick, KashKick. Download the app in the App Store. 1.5 plus million downloads, 4.5 plus average rating. This is the rare triple win because you get all your games consolidated on this one app, KashKick. So any games you have to play on your phone, you get on there. KashKick makes it really easy to find the games. As you play, you get money on the side. Goes right to your PayPal, all legit, just for playing games. Literally no strings attached. You play the games, you make money. On top of that, the advertisers will match whatever you're getting paid with a donation to the American Cancer Society. So you win by playing games, you win by getting money, and the American Cancer Society wins by getting donations. The rare triple win with KashKick, that's KashKick in the App Store, and the Play It Forward campaign. Here, Greenwich says, Shalala ruined football, but long-term she helped with establishing UHealth, which is throwing off $400 million in profits. You know, I've never really been a big Shalala basher. I know, look, some of it's going to be politics because, you know, she's on one political party, so people that are on the other political party don't like it. Same if she was on the other party. I mean, it's just kind of how politics goes. But she wanted Barry Alvarez instead of Coker. Like, I don't know if she, like, that might have probably been a smart move. I mean, how many games did Barry Alvarez win? I'm going to pull it up here. So Barry Alvarez, after, and look, would we have won the championship in 2001? Who knows? So there's so many variables in play. It's hard to say. But after, although you know what, though, to be fair, Barry Alvarez, I think, dropped off a little bit after, like his prime was right before that. Because then 2001, he actually did not make a bowl. He was 5-7. Then he was 8-6, 7-6, 9-3. 10-3. So he got it back rolling there towards the end and then became the AD, but he had a little bit of a dry spell. So with Barry Alvarez, I think he's a better coach than Larry Coker, pretty sure. But you know, I don't know how that would have worked. It's like one of those alternative histories, but I don't think like she was the problem. I'm not saying she was great or bad. I really don't know the ins and outs, but I don't think she was like she ruined football. I mean, I think we had a lot of people ruining football.
Yeah, there was a lot of people to blame, I think, at the time. I think
Did you run into Jen Strawley at the game yesterday?
No, I don't know that she wanted to show her face at Miami. Not a lot of love for her at the U. Man, that talk about someone who contributed to some bad things in Miami.
So Pete, recruiting wise, real quick, because I know people want to know about recruiting. There it is. Before I even said it, Mr. Lexiani, football recruiting morning. I don't anticipate a ton of action on offense. Amari Latimer, I think, is the name to watch, but that's, you know, there's a lot of stuff happening at running back, right? You don't know who's going to leave. You don't know who's going to stay. You don't know how things are going to go. I think that's an interesting position to watch. But Latimer I'd put on the radar. But other than that, I don't see a lot of movement on offense. Then at defense, I think you're still trying to flip one of those 5-star, 4-star defensive linemen.
I think the focus, as we've said the last couple of weeks here, I think the focus is starting to turn to the transfer portal. As you've got this period here coming up in the next month where things will be active. Like I said, early and often.
Yeah, and so there's pros and cons to this one portal. I think more probably cons than pros. If you're, you know, Mario would love to have 2 portal windows because he's such a good portal recruiter and he's so aggressive and he doesn't care about vacations and stuff like that. So he's, you know, we were not part of the movement because a lot of coaches push for the one window. I don't think we were part of that movement. I would say a pro is we have some good young players. So the one window helps tampering, I think, like helps protect against tampering a little bit. Because you don't get tampered with like until, you know, through spring. Which we had a lot of guys that we had to play defense on into like May or whenever the second portal was. Pete, you know, we were playing a lot of defense on some pretty important players. Mm-hmm. So we have some good players and maybe it's easier to keep them, but we got to like oversign in this portal period to make sure we don't have holes after spring. Because we got Keelan Marion, Scott, Jacoby Thomas, and some of the best players on our team, Mo Toure, they were all after spring.
Yeah, I think that's part of it right now is figuring out what spots you're going to need. But they'll be aggressive. I mean, I think 10 to 12 guys, just off the top of my head. from what I'm hearing, quarterback, 1 running back, a receiver or 2, a tight end, that's 4, probably an O lineman, that's 5, a D end, a D tackle, that's 7, 2 linebackers,
Yep.
that's 9. And I feel good about DB, but there's going to be some movement there. I'm sure they'll bring one or 2 guys in. So that's 11 if you get two more there, and then probably a kicker.
Definitely a kicker. Unless we can get Carter Davis's boot back another year. I don't think it's possible. I think he's done. Man, I'd love to have him again.
How good is he?
That was
crazy how that's like become such a non-discussion. And that was probably, other than how's Beck gonna look, that was one of our biggest discussions in camp, and we haven't mentioned it at all.
I mean, knock on wood, but yeah, he's been great. You hope in these next 2 games you don't need the kicker too much, and then look, you get to the playoffs and all bets are off. It's kicking, so just hope for the best. But he's definitely been rock solid. His touchbacks, which our boy Joel's mentioning, I mean, he's got the leg, so I feel good there. So, but yeah, I think that's the portal's going to be the story, and you got to oversign there. But I would say to me,
the story. The portal already is the story. That
is
Sam Levitt video was our best video in a while the other day.
I love the portal.
We need some more rumors to start popping.
I wish we had 7 portal periods for CanesInSight purposes. But, to me, in general, I think with the portal, the way I would focus it is I would probably be more towards like impact guys and less towards getting 12 really good guys. I might have like, if I can get 3 great guys, and then I would say bodies elsewhere, but like trusting the young players a little bit at other spots, that might be more where I would lean.
I guess what I'm doing is kind of also projecting, hey, at some of these spots, there's guys that are there now that are bodies, that'll probably move on.
No, that's true. No, you need
that's where I'm factoring in these.
No, your numbers are right. I mean, at least I think they're right.
Those numbers are pretty accurate according to what I've heard. Yeah, but what you're saying is spending wise. Okay,
spending wise, yeah. So
go get a Dylan Stewart at the end. Go get a Levitt at quarterback, and then you go get a Cam Coleman at receiver. I'm making this up. This is a complete guess, but those it's going to cost you like $10 million right there.
Right. And look, and a receiver, I think, the receiver you have is going to be considered a top. I mean, what's Malachi Tony going to be in the country next year returning? Jeremiah Smith, you'd say, is the best. I think Coleman's going to be up in their conversation. Ryan Williams could bounce back, but I would say, Mally's no less than a top 5 receiver in the country next year. I think that's not a homer take. I think that's pretty much going to be the consensus if you ask people outside of Miami. So, got to pay him. That's not going to be cheap. You're happy to have him.
Shout out to Keenan Ricker. He says, I was at the 2014 Duke Johnson Virginia Tech game. Now I'm supporting the Canes every week from Japan. Go Canes, 10 wins minimum. Listen, the let's win 10 it's a worldwide
movement, baby. Yeah. Pete, if you're going to Japan, you got to go to Japan, Pete. It really is the best place I've ever visited in my life. Like, I've never seen downtown Tokyo is the biggest city in the world. It has less traffic.
There's a lot of places. I get it. It's not. There's other places I want to go before that though. And I'll go back to Spain for the 3rd time before I go there.
That's right. You got to go. You got to go where soccer is the number 1 sport. I understand.
Yeah.
You're a soccer tourist.
Bagging says no more bodies guys just for numbers. I gotta say though, you look at last year's portal class. There's a lot of impact players and guys who aren't just bodies. It's hard for me to classify last year's portal class as that. I think years previous, yes, there was more of that.
Yeah, no doubt. They did a great job. I mean, it's just great evaluation, because not all of them you expected them to necessarily be impact guys. That I think people expected Jacoby Thomas to be good, to be like a starter, and to be a hard hitter and all that. I don't think people expected him to be the best safety in the ACC. At least I didn't. Like it's, Keontae Scott, did you expect him to be like one of the elite defensive backs in the country? I did not, and I had high hopes for him. So, yeah, man, they hit real big on some players. And I think the run defense, the fact is, to me, one of the big concerns I always have, every defensive coordinator you're going to hear always, and this is everybody, Heatherman, any defensive coordinator at any level. If you're a defensive coordinator in Pop Warner and you disagree with what I'm saying, or high school, or you're listening to the show, hopefully defensive coordinator in college and pros got better stuff to do. But if you're a defensive coordinator, I know we have defensive coordinators that listen to the show. Like, pretty sure every defensive coordinator I've ever talked to said you got to stop the run first. That's their first priority in terms of like just putting their defense together. And when you play these big games against the Notre Dames and these big physical teams, if you can't stop the run, you're toast. You're not even in the ball game. Table stakes. The ability to stop the run at the elite level, Miami's doing it. And you have David Blay at defensive tackle, big part of it, even though he didn't play last week. Mo Toure, big part of it. And some of the defensive backs additions and how they tackle. That, it wasn't horrible last year stopping the run, but it wasn't good. So to go from that to elite, you credit, of course, Coach Heatherman, but you also credit the personnel department for getting the guys you need in the room to stop the run, where you're able to stop guys like Jeremiah Love, Jaden Baugh, and some of these other players, Hollywood Smothers, not just stop them, but basically take them completely out of the game. Shout out to everybody involved in run defense. And there's a big test this weekend against a top 25 run defense, or run offense, I should say, at Virginia Tech. The Arena, appreciate you. Yeah, fast starts are going to be huge, man. That's a big challenge. We need fast starts and not false starts. Jay's got a question as a big time LaMelo supporter. He wants to know if he's an elitist, if he grills up a Japanese Wagyu A5 for a 12 p.m. game tailgate.
That just means you're eating good, man.
Just because you're elite, you're an elitist.
I gotta tell you, man, these names are throwing me off. We got everyone's name has been changed in the chat today. So we got Joel, who's usually, you call him Joel. He's JW Hurricanes today. So
Joel Warren, Kane legend, man.
Maybe we could use some of his shooting from the perimeter right now.
Seriously, man. Shout out to Joel, man. The guy's a former Kane. He's out there chilling, eating Japanese Wagyu, supporting the show every day, man. We appreciate you, Mr. Warren. Prime time says, I feel like the defense wasn't bad in talent last year. We just had a bad coach. I think the defensive back talent has increased like in a major way. I mean, you think of some of the guys we got this year, man, between Jacoby Thomas, best in the ACC, Zechariah Poyser, really good. Bryce Fitzgerald as a freshman. Of course, Keontae Scott, the best nickel in the country when he was healthy. And then 4 corners that can go with Lucas, Frederic, Damari Brown had a really good year. Ethan O'Connor. It's crazy. So Charles Brantley played last week. Charles Brantley probably would have started for us last year. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he would have started over De'Ani Hill.
Yeah, look, all the names got changed on YouTube, by the way. So like the Greenwich says the back of White Center looks 30 years old for Canes B-ball. But look at all these new names here. I'm seeing the avatars, but the names are all new. Mr. Lexiani, formerly OSO.
Yeah, it's a little confusing for us, I gotta say, D.
Rob Duke says he's hearing Markel Belt might come back next year. It's situation to monitor. Would you say, Pete, situation to monitor?
Yeah, definitely. I think he has the opportunity here to come back. I think it's something that he's considering. There's always the tough thing, D, for these guys is even though he may be, probably a day 3 guy right now and could get paid a lot of money next year. Sometimes guys are like, man, I'd rather go make this same, because it would be a similar, as a rookie, he'd make something similar in the NFL based on where he'd probably get drafted. But sometimes guys just say, I'm done with college. So that I think guy like him who's older, who went the JUCO route, who sees, look, I'm going to get drafted. I'd rather just get to the next level already and start to develop and get to my second contract. That's where he has to make a decision. But it's certainly under consideration from what I understand.
Yeah, and I think of somebody who was in that situation last year, which is Akeem Messidor. Akeem Messidor was like 26. And I know I'd heard similar that he was kind of done with college. Like he wasn't exactly, he was old. He's older than Bell. So he was like kind of thinking, all right, I'm done.
Time to just move on. Yeah.
And then he comes back, gets paid a nice amount of money, reshapes his body. And now he's like Akeem Messidor. And look, the injuries and the age is going to affect his evaluation a little bit. But in terms of the film he's put on as a senior, he is easily a top 100 player. I would say film-wise, he's closer to a top 50 player, but the other stuff might put him in that top 100 range. But he has been like incredible, and I think he's made himself a lot of money. Obviously, made money.
You could argue he's been Miami's best defensive player.
It's in the certainly pass rush, man. He's been getting home and finishing, and now you got pretty good guy on the other side. I think he's the highest rated defensive player in the country according to PFF. But I mean, Messidor's not far behind, so I think that would be a different position. But if I'm Bell and if I'm coach is trying to sell him, I'd be like, look at Akeem. Look at Akeem. And Markel Bell has gotten so much better from year 1 to year 2 because he's such a hard worker and he's getting good coaching. I can only imagine what happens in year 3. I mean, he'll come in as probably an All-America type left tackle, like projection-wise, considering he really has not given up much pressure this year and he's been good on the run. Who knows where he'd be projected next year? And then look, could he even work his way up to where he's getting picked in these higher rounds because of another year of development, and now you're getting paid to go to college, you're getting better, you're getting picked higher. And then to me, this is the biggest thing. How are you going to play once you get in the pros? Because if you play well when you get there, there's a lot more money than that first contract. So I think that's also part of what Bell needs to worry about is not just, hey, where am I going to get picked and am I going to make money in the pros? Like if he goes out there and he's playing Myles Garrett and he's not ready for it, he gets smoked on national TV. How's it going to affect his confidence? How's that going to affect his whole deal, his whole trajectory? So those are things he needs to think about as well.
D, what do you want to do here? I was supposed to get Jack on in 10 minutes. We can keep this thing rolling and I can bring him on live if you want to stick around.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, okay. So I'll send him the link now and tell him just hop in whenever.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. Joseph Hammond says year 3 for Bell might equal first round. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I think with him, there's going to be certain physical limitations just because he's tall and there's some teams that don't love the, side-to-side lateral movement with a guy that size, but in a certain system, he'll be wanted for sure.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of these guys, it's funny, I was talking to someone about Francis, and what they said about Francis was he actually, even though we think of him as a big, powerful guy who knocks guys off the ball, which he does, that he might be more suited to like a San Francisco 49ers type Shanahan deal where guys are moving around and using their athletic ability because he's very much a mover. Joel asking, D, how you get your protein? Trying to toying with going veggie plant-based, worried about protein though. I mean, I eat fish like probably once a week, but in terms of the protein shakes every day, big time protein shakes, like in the morning, like 50 grams with creatine in there. So that usually does the trick. I can't say I'm who would be the comparison? Francis Malinoa? But it does the trick, I find.
Francis ain't on no vegan.
Yeah, that Samoan diet, man.
He's eating that Lomelo. He's eating a big portion of Lomelo's meats, man.
West End Zone, how you get the B12? You take a B12 supplement. That's typically standard for anyone who's eating plant-based. You just take a B12 supplement.
Rob Duke says Bell's late 3rd or 4th right now. He will return if NCAA permits. I'm not sure I'm not sure it's set in stone that he would return if that's the case. I think, like I said, sometimes that's not really just because you aren't a first round pick doesn't mean guys will leave. But I will say the second part of your statement there, if NCAA permits, from my understanding, he's good to go for another year now. So the ball's in his court is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And we'll see how the season ends, man. He's playing really good football. I mean, how many times and again, I don't want to jinx it, but how many times have we seen Beck get a lot of pressure from the blind side?
There was 2 plays in a row last game that he got. One was like a holding, and then there was pressure on the next. It seems like those sort of plays just like cluster up for it. We saw the same thing against Virginia Tech last year, which was really was that his first game starting? Or was that was one of the first games that he started the year? That was really when we first started seeing him. So I think that with him, it's the consistency. Most of the times, though, he engulfs the defender. Like they just disappear on a lot of plays.
No doubt. Backing up, asking for the latest update on E-Money. He's playing travel baseball. He's gotten into more of like a tournament only travel situation, which is, I guess, normal at this age and down here in South Florida baseball as it gets more serious. J Money, my middle son Joaquin, he's playing a lot of quarterback and flag football, and he's throwing touchdowns. And he's throwing a lot of picks. I told him don't get gun shy. Keep throwing. Keep that Brett Favre. I had to show him some Brett Favre videos. I'm like, look, this guy led the NFL all time in interceptions. Don't lose your confidence. Keep throwing. Don't hold the ball.
Jeff Lynn's Elo says, as we talk about some guys here, I have some decisions to make. He says Fletcher should come back, and then is Moten eligible? The Fletcher one's going to be interesting to me, D, because he's at that position. You understand that there's a certain shelf life. He's a guy who has gotten banged up. So if he can finish this season healthy here after he comes back from this, he's got a tough decision to make. I'm sure Miami would love to have him back, but at the same time, I'm sure Miami's also preparing to not have him next year.
It's going to be a wild portal season, man. I think part of the, I think one thing that would make a lot of sense is to, if you can lock up a guy like a Bell, a guy like an Ahmad Moten, Fletcher, you've now taken a lot of needs off the table, particularly Moten and Bell, because those are very expensive positions to fill. Like if Moten and Bell were in the portal, that just the equivalent player, you're talking about a lot of money to get a guy like that. So you want to keep him while you have him. Keep him from the pros, keep him from other teams, keep him, and then you at least have those spots set, and it's a little easier to develop. You're going to have young guys as well in some of those positions. D-tackle, offensive line, you've recruited pretty well there. So keep those veterans there, and I think you're pretty good in some very important spots on your team. Question right in time for holiday season. MMA All Day wants to know, I need some Canes Insight merch for the holidays. Appreciate you. You need merch, Canes Insight. Just go to Canes Insight, my Shopify. All these items should be available right under the YouTube video, but it doesn't always pop up. You can go to just CanesInsight.myshopify.com. There's a tab on CanesInsight.com as well. So you can get the gear, get the hoodies. That's the big popular one. It's a champion hoodie. Really good material. I was wearing it yesterday at the game. So different colors as well. I was wearing the black. Get the Green Tree All-America shirts. Gator Tears. These are still very timely. We had a couple Green Tree All-Americans this year, and definitely a lot of Gator Tears. So yeah, you can get your stuff there. And also, if you want to get just Canes merch in general, man, the Miami Hurricane team store right there in time for the holidays. Gear up for game week. Get that Cam Ward jersey for Pete. Use promo code INSIGHT20.
That's not a Cam Ward jersey. That's a JoJo Trader jersey. That's a Mo Toure jersey.
Use promo code INSIGHT20. Get 20% off your first item in store or online. It's MiamiHTS.com. Promo code INSIGHT20. Here it is. Back it up says, we just need the 10 win shirt. Just win 10 shirts in circulation. Pete, if we win 10, you got to design a history-making shirt. That's what we need. It's like a nice.
Listen, I don't want to spoil too much, but I already have something in the works for the post game show. So
D Train says baseline Pete trying not to be shorter than Chris Likes last night. You're not short. I don't know where that started.
Listen, I've been called fat before. I've been called a lot of things. I've not been short. I haven't been called.
Yeah, you're 6'1", solid 6 foot plus. I'm 5'10", so I'm like Miami normal or tall, and then I'm short when you go to like Minnesota, which I learned the hard way. I thought I was tall because like I was always a taller kid in my class, compared to short Cubans. Then you go to like these places with like Scandinavians, and you're like, man, I'm short. This sucks. I got to change my personality.
Texting Jack right now. I'm gonna see if we might have to push it back. So I'll let you know here in just a moment, D.
All right,
I'm not 6'2" either. Bagging up says I'm about 6'2". I wouldn't say I'm 6'2". You're maybe giving me an inch and a half there. I'll take it, but
I'll tell you, there's not a short player on Miami. I mean, what are True and Trey? They're like 6'1", 6'2".
Trey is probably 6'2", 6'3". I wouldn't even say it. True, same thing. I mean, they're
long
not
arms. I'm True.
Yeah. I think and 6'1", I would say definitely taller than 6'1". But
like they don't look small. Like when you're there in person, especially just kind of apples to apples. Like last year, I remember seeing Jaleel Bethea for the first time. Jaleel Bethea has a lot of traits, and I like Jaleel Bethea. I want him to succeed. But like I remember seeing Jaleel Bethea the first time, and I told you, Pete, I'm like, this guy's not that big. Like I watched him it was the McDonald's game, and we were back in the old studio. I remember saying to you, like, man, Pete's not like, or sorry, Pete, but Bethea's not that big. Like he just looks smaller when you see him. Like Jaleel Blackman, when you saw him in person, you're kind of like, man, I thought this guy might have been a little bigger. Like they were smaller than you thought in person. Whereas I think these guys, just like from a height, like hand size, like bone density, like some of the functional size stuff that plays into basketball, they just look bigger on top of guys like Sheldon Henderson and Uday, who are obviously bigger guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that obviously Trey was a football player too, so that goes into the equation.
Shout out to Martin Yucatan. There it is. Yeah, tofu, broccoli, spinach, protein, along with the protein powder. 130 grams a day, easy. Yeah, you just gotta monitor it. And then I like creatine. Creatine's a good one. I think that works. Supposed to help with your mind, although I still get every pronunciation wrong every show. But
I don't know that the creatine will change that one. That's just ingrained in you.
All right, so let's cut this one, and then when Jack's on, we'll do another show. So stay tuned for that. We got a lot of Canes basketball coverage. Canes recruiting coverage will continue. Like I said, I wish there was more to talk about Canes recruiting, but I think a lot of the hay's in the barn. But we will continue to dig and find out. I think the portal.
Oh, wait.
Uh-oh.
Jack's coming on.
All right, let's bring him on.
So he says 4 minutes.
All right, okay.
So he'll be here in a minute.
Joel says,
listen, if you have to hop off, I can handle it myself, D.
That's all right, though. Joel says Jack was awesome with those Quad X uniforms, played in the Nut Hugger era.
Let me tell you, man, Jack, I'm excited for this one because Jack he was on the call with Kyle last night, and he's been on the call for a lot of these early season games. And he's around the program as to me, the greatest in terms of the Canes. His jersey's obviously retired up there, but the fact that he's around the program, he's known Jay for a while, since before he came to Miami. So he's someone who's around, and he understands kind of the ins and outs of what's going on, and he understands what he's seen this program at its lowest, at its highest, and he's very excited about the future here. So excited to have him in a second.
Yeah, man. Let's real quick football before we get to the basketball with Jack. Jeff saying, according to Eric McLean, my boy, Miami's much bigger than Pitt. I would say that's accurate. I mean, Pitt's not really a big physical team. We'll see if Desmond Reed plays. Sounds like he's trending to play. They're dynamic, all-purpose back from South Florida. But he's a smaller guy. He's always banged up for that reason because they use him too much probably. But yeah, Pitt's not a huge team, but they're athletic and they're dangerous. I mean, I think I was having this discussion. There's a lot of ACC possibilities, and everybody keeps telling me we need Pitt to beat Georgia Tech, and I get it. But part of me just kind of wants Pitt to be dead men walking in that stadium, empty stadium, all that. That's just
Lance said he wants a good atmosphere.
No, bad atmosphere. Bad atmosphere. I want a terrible atmosphere. Greenwich says, D, you crushed McLean and Gramlich this week. I appreciate you. Those guys are the best. They're super easy to that show's the easiest show to do. But yeah, ACC Network, the McLean and Gramlich podcast. You can check that out on YouTube. It's actually Gramlich and McLean. Let's get Kelly first billing on that. But yeah, so appreciate you guys.
All right. We got the man here ready now.
Can you hear me?
I'll let you do the intro.
We hear you on. The legend Jack.
What's going on, fellas? What's going on?
Jack. Good morning, Jack. How you doing, man?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Doing great, man. We got over 1,000 here live watching us. So guys, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We have Canes great Jack McClinton. He was on the call last night for the Canes win over Elon. Before we get started, Jack, you're a man who's involved in a lot of different businesses, a lot of different things out there.
Right.
So, every week when you come on with us here, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of, promote a lot of the stuff that you're involved in right now. So let the people know, man, where can they connect with you and, kind of take a look at some of the stuff that you're involved in right now?
Yeah, I mean, you can connect with me on Instagram, obviously, Manifest McClinton on Instagram. Active Dreamers is the business account. And you can go to activedreamers.com to check out the stuff I'm doing. My latest invention is a children's shoe right now, where it's just basically inspiring the kids to dream bigger. If you think about the children's shoe market, there's not a shoe specifically targeted to children. And, I'm around a lot of kids and I like to inspire kids. So, I wanted to create something that the kids could feel and put on and their imagination could come out.
Look at this. We got the Active Dreamers. We got the Cloud Ballers right here on the screen. So you guys can go check that out. ActiveDreamers.com. Man, these things look slick, Jack. I love them. I've been seeing the pictures on a lot of the kids that have been wearing them, man. These are sick.
I appreciate it, man. Keep your heads in the cloud. I always say the sky is not the limit. But let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's talk about the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
That's enough about me. I appreciate that. But, we're here to talk about the Canes. Let's talk about that.
Last night you were on the call, Jack. I mean, you've been on the call for a few of these games early on here this season. Early impressions of what you've seen.
Obviously, the first look, when you look at the University of Miami basketball team, we're a lot bigger than we have been in the past. Bigger guards, bigger point guard and Trey Donaldson, big wings and Shelton Henderson, big bigs and Ernest Uday and Malik Renew. And, I think this team is great in transition. Obviously, you see the basketball in the half court. They still have some work, and it's a whole new team. So, obviously, when it's a whole new team, you got to get to feel each other out. But in transition, it's one of the best teams in the country.
Jack, with Shelton Henderson, 5-star freshman, there were a couple points in yesterday's game where he kind of was the man out there. There was the loose ball, and he would grab it, finish and one, like really imposing his physicality despite being a younger player. What do you see from him in his future?
I mean, obviously, sometimes there's a lot of pressure coming in as a 5-star athlete, high expectations. But you could see that Sheldon Henderson's ready to be out there and he's ready to play. He's coming out there playing like as if he's a senior or a junior, knocking down open shots. And first thing is taking the open shot. A lot of times you look at guys that come in and they're like, oh, man, I'm a freshman and me, I shouldn't shoot that shot. But he's supremely confident. He's let the ball fly, and it goes in when you let it fly.
I gotta say, Jack, we could use a little bit of that perimeter shooting that you brought to the Canes for so many years. But when I watch this team offensively, the ball's not sticking. You don't see a lot of ISO ball. The ball movement's been great. Guys seem to be getting to the spots that they want to get to. And look, obviously, you had the Florida game. It's a different level of athlete that you're going against. But offensively, what have you liked early on this season from this team?
I think you hit it on the head. You look at last year's team, we had a lot of individual players, a lot of guys that were very talented individual scoring. Not saying that this team isn't, but I think one thing that Jay Lucas has done is say, look, we don't want the ball to stick. Because Jay's preparing these guys for the next level. Jay's lineage of his dad being in the NBA, being around that. At the highest level, the ball does not stick, and Jay has the ball moving. And always a moving basketball is a lot harder to guard than a basketball that's pounding on the ground.
With Malik Renew, he's kind of got a unique game, right? Because he's a post player around the basket, but he's more power forward body, just does a lot of different things and brings a real good energy to the team. How do you see him fitting into this offense and building that offense around really what he does?
Use the word fitting in. I say he is the key to fit into this offense. When he gets gone, I mean, this team is a much better team. I would like to see him shoot that three ball a little bit more. Like, he has a lot of opportunities where he's catching on the perimeter and he's not stepping into his shot ready to shoot. A lot of times he catches it, thinks about it, he may shoot or he may pass. I think when he gets it going to outside, it's going to make his inside game a lot easier.
True Washington, Jack, is someone who we were talking about the other day. He came in here and there was talk about him as an on-ball defender, but his offensive game has I think he's shown he's been more than capable early on this year. He's someone who's been consistently hitting down outside shots for Miami. What have you seen from him early on?
I mean, I call True just an automatic bucket. You need guys in your team that you could put in the game or start a game and say, you know what, go get me a basket. If you notice the first play of the game yesterday, True got the ball, got downhill, got in the paint and finished. And you want to see that from your guard that's on the wing. Not only can he knock this open shot down, he can get paint touches. That's a big key to any basketball team. If you can get in the paint and you can bring the defense in and look out to your other players, that's what you want to see. And True is super aggressive offensively, and that's going to help the Canes down the road, hopefully when they get to March.
We got a comment here from Sean Joseph Davis. Says, big ups, Jack. Remember you coming down to St. Thomas for the Paradise Jam. You and Jimmy Graham got live on the court down there. Good to see you thriving, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it, Sean. Appreciate that, man. It's all about the you, baby.
JW Hurricane says, Jack's step back jumper made people look silly. You guys, I'll post this clip. I'll repost it on CanesInSight today. Jeff Teague was talking about Jack yesterday. He said, listen, you said James Harden, his step back was deadly. It was step back Jack was the one who really created that.
Yeah, for sure, man. Back then when I played, there wasn't social media, there wasn't Instagram, so there was no, a clip showing over and over again. But if you go on to YouTube, you type in my name, you'll see that step back. And I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to have my peers and guys that I played with, give me my flowers. And it means a lot to me.
One thing I want to ask you about, Jack, is at the game yesterday, obviously Coach L's kind of there front and center. You're on the call with our boy Kyle Seeloff. I'm pretty sure I saw Robert Flight Height in the crowd right next to me. It feels like you're starting to see a little bit more of a UM culture since, the success has been better in recent years, starting, with what you were able to do and Coach L kind of keeping that thing going. Like, do you feel like there's starting to be that UM basketball culture where, look, football obviously had a big head start, but you're seeing a family out there that's making themselves at home in Jay Lucas's program?
Yeah, I think you definitely see it, and I think Jay Lucas came from Duke, which is they're all about the brotherhood. It's all about bringing alumni back and creating that aura around the program. Because when you look in the stands, you see former guys in the stands, you see Coach L on the court. It makes you feel like I'm a part of a family. It makes you feel you have the advantage playing at home. And obviously, I think that's something really big that Coach Jay Lucas wanted to do is provide a family atmosphere. He always says any former players that want to come to practice, it's open door policy. So that's a great thing by a new coach coming in and helping guys and opening his arms to everyone.
Jack, looking forward here, got Delaware State Sunday, but then you've got a real opportunity that next week playing against BYU. And then you obviously have Georgetown and Dayton in the same tournament in Orlando. Those early season matchups, obviously you had one against Florida. But if you're in these guys' shoes right now, how important is this game to know, hey, this is going to be a resume building sort of opportunity for March, even though it's so early in the season?
Yeah, I think it's always a great game, but obviously when I played, you don't want to put that added pressure on you saying, this is a resume builder. It's another game that they're going to have to play, and they're going to have to do the things that they didn't do right against Florida, which is a top 10 team, and do them right against BYU. Obviously you got BYU with a guy like AJ DeBanza. He's a proven pro, and you could see it. And I've seen one of the one-ups that we have is that he's going to try to get his. If we can stop AJ DeBanza and stop the point guard right, I think we have a good opportunity to win the game. Obviously, that's cliche to everybody would say it, but easier said than done.
You were a transfer. Transfers are not new to the University of Miami, but the fact that a whole new team, like literally, everybody in the building pretty much brand new, is on the floor. There's an adjustment period. What do you think that's like to build a new team from scratch like Jay Lucas has to do here?
Yeah, one thing about this team, if you really look in depth with this team, like a lot of these guys are from Florida. So I'm a big energy guy. I'm a big frequency guy. And when you bring guys from the same place and you start your team building off, hey, look, you're playing for the state of Florida. I think that helps the growth of the team a little bit faster than getting a new team with guys from all over the place. So, it's a new team, but these guys are buying into Coach Jay Lucas's program. He's had success as the assistant coach. Obviously, he's a head coach now, and I tremendously believe that he's going to have amazing success as a head coach.
Man, one guy who's really sticking out to me right now, who seems to be getting more comfortable every game, Jack, is Dante Allen. Really brings some nice size to that guard position, some toughness, and seems to be making winning plays.
Yeah, I mean, look at Dante Allen. He started at Riviera Prep. Great friend of mine, Tony Shabazz, Vicky Shabazz. They're over at that program. He's a great coach. And I think a lot of times you see the guys that come in as freshmen early, you can tell they had great coaching coming up. Not saying that guys come in that are not good or not as good as they thought they would be. I think a lot of it has to do with coaching, have accountability. And you look at Dante Allen, he listens, he gets downhill, and he plays basketball the right way. And that's what you want to see with a freshman. You don't see Dante Allen out there trying to create, go one-on-one, shoot threes. He gets the ball, attacks downhill. He gets the ball, attacks. They don't have none. He kicks it out. He knocks down open shots. That's what you want to see in a freshman. And I look at Dante Allen, that guy's a bona fide pro in my eyes.
Obviously, this team's improving in a lot of areas, and they're working on everything. But is there one area or two, just something you focus on, say, hey, this is an area they really got to get better as they head into ACC play and improve?
Yeah, I think the biggest area for me is outside shooting. And it's not that they can knock down the shot, but I want to see them take more threes. Because once you get a couple threes going, maybe in transition, hit a couple threes and take your threes earlier, that changes the whole dynamic of the team that's playing you defensively. I would like to see the Canes shoot more threes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat because you see, like you mentioned, Malik's shot doesn't look bad when he takes it with confidence, right? It's not like a broken jump shot. So I think when that little doubt is removed from their mind and they can just start letting it fly, it will change the way. And I think you saw last night with Shelton Henderson. man, if he can start knocking down a couple threes like that a game, it's going to change the way that teams defend Miami.
100%. And like I said, everybody's shooting threes now. The best teams in the country, you're a 3-point threat. And, like somebody just commented, threes open up your offense. If I can knock down a three, now this guy's come at me on a closeout, I can punt fake, couple dribbles, get in the paint, and then find a layup, a lob to my big man Ernest, or kick it back out to another shooter. So, like you said, shout out to bagging up 40. Threes open up your offense, man, for sure.
Yeah, and you keep talking about just the confidence when it's open, and obviously this is something you lived, right? When you played, you did not have too much of a conscience when it was there. A guy like Timo, number 88 from Slovakia, it seems like he's a little bit timid right now. He's coming from Europe. It's a different situation. He's adjusting a lot. Do you see him and maybe some other guys having more in the tank once they do get that confidence to put it up when it's open, to attack when they close out? Like, do you see that there's still more room to grow there?
Yeah, for sure. Timo's an amazing shooter. You saw that the first couple games. I think it was the game before last. He maybe had 2 or 3 threes. And one thing you see with good shooters, they do not hesitate. When you see a guy hesitate, that means that they're not either confident or they're not ready to shoot. I always say, when the ball is in the air or the ball is swinging, you got to be ready to shoot before that ball leaves a guy that's passing you the ball. A lot of times our guys are standing straight up, not ready to shoot. But I think Timo could be a huge, huge help in the perimeter because, once again, he's a tall guy. He can shoot over guys, and he's a smart player. A lot of times these European players, they play the right way, and I go back to coaching early. He's been playing pro for a while. So look for him to be a huge major plus for University of Miami.
Joel Warren, who, by the way, Jack, Joel played at Miami in the late 80s. So Joel is a guy who is a commenter here on our show. He said, I like what the small lineup looks like. Love Solly, but he says might be better for offensive flow. I thought it was interesting. Obviously, Ernest was out last night, but that lineup did give you some interesting looks there.
Yeah, I think, the lineups all depends on who you're playing. And obviously, if you're playing a team that's big, you can't really go small because at the end of the day, if we're not shooting the basketball the way we want to shoot it, a small lineup doesn't really do anything for you. But, that's a great example of, you put the right lineup in and you can have the advantage. And that goes back down to coaching. I'm sure Jay knew, like, you know what? He could have started the big yesterday, but he started Dante Allen. So looking at that lineup and looking at that Elon team, they didn't really have a huge big that would go inside. They had a lot of bigs that went to play on the perimeter. So that was a great adjustment by Jay Lucas.
And then, Jack, you're from a recruiting hotbed there in the DMV. And I know that on the broadcast, I was at the game, but just talking to people in the comments, hearing people talk about the broadcast, they mentioned that you did a great job of recruiting for Miami. Do a little bit of tampering, maybe a little bit. And obviously, you're living the life. You embrace the Miami lifestyle in terms of the business, the connections, everything. I mean, it's everybody that knows you has seen that.
Right.
Why should these big time recruits with the world at their fingertips and all these options consider the University of Miami going forward?
Yeah, for me, you used the word tampering. It was just me being supremely authentic and organic. I always say University of Miami changed my life. It's one thing where you could wake up every day and see, beautiful sunshine, palm trees. That does something to your energy. And not only that, like the University of Miami overall family, they keep you inside this hotbed in this family where obviously after sports or before sports, you can always go out there and leverage your network. And that's one of the biggest things that I try to tell the young kids now, like, don't put so much pressure on yourself about basketball. Put pressure on yourself to be able to make these connections. Then basketball becomes second nature.
Hey, this is great word of advice for the athletes out there, man. They're making a lot of money right now, Jack. They're making
a lot of money, man. I was a little bit too early, bro. I was a little bit too early, but hey, I'm glad that I can be around and kind of give these guys some knowledge on how to carry themselves and on the court and off the court. Like I said, it's very important to be how you carry yourself on the court. But, a lot of times people say keep the main thing the main thing. But the main thing is you need to look at yourself as a CEO. To all the athletes out there, you're not a basketball player anymore. You are a CEO of your own business. They're paying you like a professional, like a CEO. So you need to move like that. You can't just think, oh, I'm an athlete, I got to get 20. No, you got to make 20 contacts off the court as well.
And when the leaders of the team, like I look at the leaders of this team, I'm not in the locker room, obviously, but just from the outside, you definitely have more insight than I do in terms of the dynamics of this team. But feels like Renew, Uday, Donaldson are really those leaders right now. And they're such serious guys, serious competitors. How important is it when your leaders are out guys that are laying it all on the line and really doing things the right way, your best players?
Yeah, 100%. Not only they're the best players and leaders, they're the most mature guys. They've been through it. These guys these are tournament tested guys. And you want your guys that have experienced it to feed that on to the newcomers and let them know, like, look, this is what it's going to take for us to be able to march in March. No pun intended. We want to run in March, but this is what it's going to take. And you want your guys that are at the top of the totem pole that come and that experienced it to kind of be those leaders emotionally and physically.
D, you got anything else for Jack before we let him go?
Just appreciate it. And again, any other shout outs you want to get on? You know, I know you're deep in business, so anything you want to get out there. We got almost 1,100. We got more than 1,100 on right now talking Kane Hoops. The energy around the program right now is crazy and only building.
Yeah, I would say I want to shout out my guy Al at Shadow Wagyu. You know, before every game that I'm commentating, I always go there, give me a good meal. Might get a Gucci or something, but you know, I'm in there with my boy Al. Great meal. If you haven't been to Shadow Wagyu in the Gables, you might want to go check it out. You know, that's my pregame meal. And once again, shout out to active dreamers, to all the dreamers out there. No dream is too big. Just go out there and get it. It's all about the youth, baby.
Those shoes, man. Go get those shoes for your kids, man. Cloud ballers.
Get the kicks. They make you jump, dunk, and you get that funk in a good way.
Jack, appreciate you, Jack. We're going to make this a regular thing, man.
All right,
so
no problem, man. Appreciate you.
Have a good one. Have a good one, man. Great stuff.
Awesome, man. Electrifying. I'm juiced up. I was tired when I was at that hour 30 mark. Now I'm ready to do another 3, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, listen, people are loving the energy. Jeff Lynn says, Jack interested in coaching eventually. Everyone's loving it, man. Joel says, nice work, Jack. So yeah, man, definitely gonna make this a regular thing. He's around, he calls the games, he's in there, he knows what's going on, and obviously you guys just saw the energy is always great with him. So
real quick before we get out of here, Martin's asking, where's the BUZZN app before it gets banned? Need me some. So there's been some stuff in the news about THC drinks. There's still a year before that goes final, and I'm hearing good things that THC drinks will be excluded, but it doesn't matter now. It's not in effect. They got a year at least. So you want to get ahead of it, man. You want to order some cases at Drink BUZZN. That's Drink BUZZN, real THC infused seltzers. Right there. Again, drinkbuzzn.com. You can order it there. Use code FIRST35 for 35% off. Plus, if you want to buy it in stores, they got it right there at the Big Daddy's Liquors all over South Florida. That's BUZZN, BUZZN, drinkbuzzn.com. Still very much legal, still very much available, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Obviously, if anything changes, we'll keep you posted, but BUZZN is rocking and rolling, so get it at drinkbuzzn.com.
All right, D. I gotta hop off here. I guess we're gonna wrap this thing up now.
Oh yeah, D-Huck says new Storm Sessions just dropped with me and Jacoby Thomas. So check that out on the official University of Miami YouTube. Jacoby Thomas, awesome interview, great kid, country music fan, by the way, my guy.
There you go. All right, everyone. Appreciate you for tuning into 2-hour show today, D. We went big for Friday, and it's not even 11 yet.
It's a sandwich show. We win yesterday, we win tomorrow, baby. That's how we do it.
All right, everyone. Appreciate the support. Hit that like and subscribe. Go Canes.
Go Canes.